This video will show you how to replace the outer tie rod end on a Toyota Matrix. This is part of your front steering and suspension, located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Now once we've completed that, we're going to remove all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts and the wheel. Now that we have the wheel off, we have a clear view of our tie rod ends leading in towards our power steering rack and bellows boot. We're going to start at our jam nut here. Now for this, you can use a 19mm wrench. You're going to be turning this clockwise, bringing the nut up the inner tie rod end. We just need to break it free from the outer tie rod end. You can also use some long pliers for leverage if that's helpful. There we are, we've got plenty of movement from that now. Let's continue on to our outer tie rod end mounting nut. For this, you're going to find that you have a locking cotter pin up along the top. Go ahead and remove it and dispose of it properly. Now our cotter pin is extremely rotted, so I'm just going to continue on to removing as much of it as possible, and I'll remove the mounting nut afterward. Now that we have the cotter pin out of the way, we'll be using a 17mm for our mounting nut. We have a lot of rust on ours, so I'm going to tap this into place. After a quick inspection of the mounting nut, go ahead and start it back on a couple threads. We'll use some penetrant in this area. And now we're going to use a hammer and lightly tap on the steering knuckle. Now at this point, we can take hold of our tie rod ends. We're going to start turning the outer tie rod end counterclockwise, unscrewing it from the inner tie rod end. Keep track of the amount of turns it takes to remove it, and go ahead and write that number down. All right, my number was 14. Your results may vary. Let's use some anti-seize on the outer portion of the outer tie rod end on the threaded area here. Now it's time for installation of our outer tie rod end. When we go to install this, let's make sure we install it the same amount of turns it took to remove it. There we are, that's my 14 turns that I had from my application. Once we have that done, we can get the outer tie rod end back into our steering knuckle. We can make our adjustments as necessary here. Once you have that in place, go ahead and start on your castle nut. Once it's started on, snug it up and torque it to 36 foot-pounds. Once you have it torqued, we need to pay attention to the slots on our mounting nut in comparison to the port that makes its way through the stud of the outer tie rod end. It needs to be aligned so we can install our locking cotter pin. If it's not aligned, continue tightening the nut just enough that you can install the locking cotter pin. We'll pin this over so there's no way this mounting nut can loosen up on its own while we're driving down the road. For the jam nut, we're going to turn this counterclockwise, bringing it all the way up against the outer tie rod end. We'll make sure it's nice and tight. You can use a wrench or some long pliers. There we are. We'll just straighten out the outer tie rod end as necessary here. One last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our wheel. Once you have the wheel in place, go ahead and start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. We'll bottom them out in a crisscross manner, get the wheel back on the ground, and then torque each of them to 76 foot-pounds. Now I have the wheel back down on the ground. Let's go ahead and torque these to that 76 foot-pounds. Okay friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you have to do is take your vehicle for a road test down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.